Guys, welcome back to Dice Check. Pardon me. So, interesting story about that you'll probably hear soon. But today we're going to be a fun one. We are back in the original setup because the other place does not have...
Back in my bedroom.
Yeah. The other place doesn't have a very good internet connection, and we have something really cool today. We're going to be introducing a friend of more of ours by the name of Big. We're going to sit down with him, discuss his experience with D&D. We're going to be sharing stories, both a little bit funny, maybe a little Halloween, because, you know, that just happened. And we're probably going to wrap up talking genre and a couple other good things. So, you know, sit back, roll initiative. We're about to get into it. Alright, welcome back, guys. And this here is Big. How you doing, Big?
Not bad. How you guys doing?
We're doing great, man.
Oh, we are, like, fantastic.
Right. So,
you don't have to lie to me. I know, but...
Oh, you're right, man. I've been doing terrible. No, I've been having a great time. Halloween was fun.
Yeah, this is vodka, not water. That's how bad.
Sponsored.
Yeah.
But let's get into it. Let's get into it, Big. Share with us what exactly and how exactly have you been involved with D&D?
Oh, jeez. Well, let's start at the beginning. My name is Big Guy. I'm a small-time YouTuber. I got about 85 or so subscribers, so nothing overly exciting. I've been playing D&D since Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, forever ago, you know, and it got to the point where, like, we even way back in the day in QBasic, I don't know if you guys know what QBasic is, it's a computer programming language. It's the one where all those Nokia bricks were programmed on. Ones that break walls, you know. I made a program that not only created a dungeon for you, but was a dice roller as well. Like, way back in the day. I'm talking like 20 years ago.
Holy shit.
That's really cool.
And so I've been playing for forever, you know, in some way, shape, form, or another.
Do you have a favorite platform that you've done throughout the years?
I just now started getting into Pathfinder. That seems pretty good, but I'd have to say my favorite is D&D 3.5.
Fair enough. That's a favorite for a lot of people, especially the veterans.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Well, us old farts have to stick to something, you know.
Hey, us new farts got to learn the ropes, so.
Right. Back in my day, we just had 3.5. We didn't have 4s or 5s.
Where do I roll advantage? Nobody.
What's a CM? What's CMB? What's a kumbu?
Now we're just speaking another language to the audience.
Right.
Oh, man.
So, Big, if you don't mind, how did you get your start in Dungeons and Dragons? Like, did somebody introduce you to it, or did you see it in a game shop somewhere, or, like, what's the story?
That's a really good question. It was like 20-some-odd years ago. Now I'm trying to remember. Crap. In all honesty, I think if I were to take a guess from my lovely brain that's run by lawn gnomes, which that's a whole other story for another day.
I totally believe that.
I got a hamster wheel.
Oh, mine's lawn gnomes all the way, dude. Lawn gnome on a rolling chair with some filing cabinets, smoking a cigarette. But I would have to say I think I stumbled upon it, and I always liked RPGs and things like that. Like, I was the dude that played Final Fantasy VIII and spent 30 hours in the training center before you even got any of the other people, and then didn't realize that the bad guys leveled up with you, so it screwed up the rest of your party.
That's fair.
I was that dude, so I probably just stumbled upon it and started playing with some random people that I found that, you know, played in the area.
All right. I can relate to that. I was kind of like hinted at by a friend of mine. It's like, hey, you really love games where story happens, and it's actually funny. The last game I played before this conversation was Munchkin. So my friend's like, yeah, that was fun, right? You seem like you'd really enjoy D&D. And at first, I had never thought of it, so I was like, okay. And then I started looking into it, and I'm like, sure enough, I got into it really fast. So
I will admit the math kind of sucked, because I started it when I was 10.
Yeah.
You know, and like I'm sitting there going, I have to do math to play a game? What the hell?
I have no right to talk, because 5th edition threw out half the math anyway, so...
Yeah. It's basically the equivalent of cheating on a math test. At least in my experience.
See, the one good thing that I want to throw into a subject here real quick in the middle of our introduction, like 3.5 has double of that math of 5th edition, But with the added math, I can make Goku in 3.5. I can make RoboCop in 3.5. There's a Fallout universe core rules for 3.5.
Yeah, yeah. Jacob and Tanner were actually trying to get into it for a while.
Yeah, and Tanner,
which is a lot harder to get away with. Which is a lot harder to get away with the less math of fifth edition.
It's definitely a give and take, because with more math comes more areas of customization, but the taking away math also made it a lot opener for your everyday man who might not have been initially hooked on RPGs or in video games, etc. So it's definitely an interesting trade-off, I think.
Right, no, I agree. And the one good thing is the fact that Wizards of the Coast keeps, as much as you may not see 3.5 books in the stores as much anymore, you can still order them, you can still get the PDFs, so that way if you want the more customization, or if you are an old fart like me and prefers that, you can still get that stuff. And people are still making stuff for it. Along with 5th edition, 4th edition. And, there's, I ran into a guy at Hobby Lobby, which is, I don't know if you guys got Hobby Lobbies down there.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Okay. I ran into a guy at Hobby Lobby. He still plays Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
They, like, just going on DriveThru RPG, like, they have, like, all the core rule books, like, for every single, like, if it's a RPG that people have played at some point in time, it's on DriveThru RPG.
Totally. And I actually know a few people that played 3.5 still.
Yeah.
So
some people prefer it.
Oh, yeah. Totally. There's reasons. Like, I don't want to say scientific reasons, but there are very good arguments for a lot of additions. Except for some reason.
And, we get our teeth into something and we don't like to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, we don't like change.
Change is hard.
So let's share some stories, man. What's a highlighter story for you? Like, if you ever had to tell a fun story to get somebody hooked into a game, which is the one?
It has to be Bat Troll. Okay, so here's the picture. We got teleported to random dimension number 37. I have no idea anymore. And it was myself. I was a gnome cleric, because I love gnomes, and I was a cleric. And I'm like one of the few people that play clerics as true neutral, which makes most DMs go, what?
That's pretty cool.
Because I will heal you, but I don't really care. And my ex-wife was a vampire paladin, which was a fun combination all by itself.
That totally sounds fun.
That sounds like an oxymoron.
Right. Yeah, it stung a little bit. Not too bad. And then my friend was a wizard, right? Then we come around this corner in these woods, and there's 3 trolls standing there. Going, oh shit, people, go kill them. And so we freak out. I look at my ex-wife, go, turn into a mist. She goes, what? Just turn into a mist, do it now! And she goes, shaboof, into a mist. The wizard in our party throws an invisibility spell on me and hops his ass into the bushes. So I'm standing there invisible in the middle of the road going, oh god, what do I do now? And I start cackling.
Oh.
Because a little devious thought comes in my head. And the DM is like, what? Hey, babies. You know how you're like a mist and stuff? Yeah. Go suck into that dude's lungs.
Oh
what?
My God.
Go suck into that dude's lungs and then go normal size while you're in there. Yeah, alien style out of his chest. Let's have him regenerate from that, damn it.
That's great.
So we look, the 3 of us get all excited, like, the light bulb goes off, then we look at the GM, and the GM goes, I'll allow it.
I know that face! I've had that face!
So get this. She goes in there, sucks into his lungs, and then aliens out of his chest, right? Which I can almost picture him going, oh, not again, like the dude on Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
As soon as this giant opens up into his chest, the wizard throws a fireball in it so he can't regenerate.
Ooh, that's nice.
So that dude runs off, right? Because he's got a big gaping, smoldering hole in his chest. He's like, you fuck this shit, I'm out.
Yeah, chest,
Ran
heart
off.
congestion.
Right, we kill the other 2, and I found another interesting way of killing the troll. Have you ever killed somebody 3 levels above you with a level 0 spell?
No, I can't say I have, and that's because I'm not a player, but I will definitely.
imagine using the create water spell. At the level I was at, I could create about 8 gallons of water. The stomach, the human stomach, only holds about, 4 pints, give or take?
Something like that.
Maybe a gallon if you stretch it. Imagine all 8 gallons getting created in some dude's stomach at once.
Oh, I remember this one.
Uh,
Oh, man.
So
A
that's
walking
how I
water
killed
balloon.
the middle troll. So my invisible ass goes, create water, like runs up and smacks this dude in the belly all May Christ compel you style. And creates all 8 gallons of water inside of his stomach, and his insides just rupture, and he drowns from the inside.
That is
Regen's not a fact.
awesome. I love it.
that's brutal.
So the other dude, we just beat the crap out of him until he couldn't regen no more.
Well, yeah,
And,
you gotta have a constant somewhere.
Right. We ran out of interesting ideas, do adorable stuff, And so later in the campaign, we're chasing this dude down an alley in the city, and we see a hooded figure jump off the building, biff the landing, smack into a guardrail, break through a window. This is all the DM saying it, right? Break through a window. You hear a woman scream, and all you hear is, "I'm petrol."
That's great.
And we find out later in the campaign that since she was a vampire bursting out of this dude's chest, she created a perfect bat emblem in his chest,
I love it.
especially when the wizard hit it with a fireball. So now it's this big burn scar of a bat in his chest.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, hats
Oh my
off to that
God.
DM. That is fantastic.
Oh goodness.
Another good one is on that kind of note. My daughter and my ex-wife were druids, and I created a campaign where all the dwarves were killed off by a race that I created called the Balosh. They were like walking constructs.
Okay.
They were the other competition tinkerers and inventors of the world. Hence why they killed off the dwarves, so they didn't have any buying competition.
Okay.
And but we were on their homeland, and my ex-wife and my daughter turned into bunnies because they're druids.
As
Walk
you
into
do.
the middle of their town and start calling lightning. So I start cackling because I'm sitting here picturing a Super Saiyan bunny in the middle of town square, with like the ears straight up in a little lightning shape, sparks in between them, with the little bug teeth coming out.
Sounds like it's a pair of cymbals.
Right, yeah. To the point where my daughter wants the Super Saiyan bunny as a tattoo.
Ah! Oh, that's amazing.
So in response to that, the Balosh went after the bunny race. So I introduced the League of Extraordinary Dental Bunnies. We had Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, spelled like the leather, not like, the actual name. He'd turn into a big, giant, monstrous bunny. And, we had Charla Hair, and he was the sniper. We had, I recreated all of them
Oh,
in bunny, anthropomorphic bunnies.
I love it. I love it. I love it so
Oh
much.
my god.
I love
Me
it.
and one of the other DMs recreated Star Trek, but with trolls, because we were on a troll kick there for a minute with Bat Troll.
Fair enough.
So we had John-Luc Babone, or was it? Yeah, John-Luc Babone. We had Riker Rigamortis. We had input instead of data, and he was a clockwork golem.
Nice.
And we recreated all the cast, and they had this Kids Next Door 2x4 technology enterprise that actually floated. It used natural Pandora Avatar type floating rocks as the ship.
Nice.
So they even had an enterprise and everything. And me and him were making this, and we're we could never put this in a campaign. Why? Because we don't want to see them die.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh no. Those are
Ugh.
amazing stories, man.
And
Just
those are
those
just the
stories.
ones I remember. I probably forgot more than I could even possibly remember.
Those have just given me so many ideas as a DM, so I'm very thankful I got to hear them.
Oh, I got a couple more for you if
Uh-oh.
you got time.
Sure, I'm down. Morvar?
Oh yeah, let's do it, man.
These are pretty quick. These are on the back of the subject of killing somebody powerful with a level 0 spell.
Fair enough.
We were pretty high level to the point where the DM was trying to throw us Like it was a lich, but he abused that invisibility spell a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
And the DM made it so we couldn't dispel it or anything because he was a snotbag like that. So, and he used the same guy against us like 4 times with the same invisibility spells.
Ouch.
So the first time I'm like, "Hey, cleric, flood the chamber," you know, and the cleric's like, "What?" I said, "You got to create water, flood the friggin' chamber, even if it's just ankle high. That's all we need." And the cleric's like, "Why?" I said, "Because if there's a spot with no water in it, shoot it." You know? So then the second time it hit, and the DM took away his create water spell. Like, the lich learned and made it so that spell doesn't work in my lair anymore.
Huh. That must have been a really
So I'm
strong
like-
lich.
He was a pain in the ass. So I looked at the monk, because I think I was playing a rogue at the time or something. I looked at the monk, and he's got levels in Drunken Master. I'm like, dude, start spewing alcohol everywhere, we'll light it and see what burns. You know? I've always done that where I've always been killing stuff with weird ways and sideways and everything.
Oh, that's
I'm
so
that
much
one player that
fun.
every GM just rolls his eyes at and hates.
I have that player. His name is Jacob, and I love him.
Yeah, he was on the...
Check the last
Because
episode.
they always have the weirdest ideas of like, wait, how are you going to get out of that with a cardboard box? Just watch, man, just watch.
This is a guy who tried drinking a water weird. That says enough.
Oh, goodness.
Fair enough.
They've definitely had, like, my players, I love it when they get creative like that.
Yeah.
It gets me so hype. like we
Oh, yeah.
me and my friend Jacob, as we were discussing last episode, one of his crowning achievements, because he had a healing dagger, it didn't do any damage, it just healed whenever he stabbed somebody. Why not? Because can. So,
I know what story you're talking
yeah,
about.
we just talked about this, but I feel like Big has to hear this. It's
Yeah.
magnificent. So the sorcerer got framed by a bad guy and was like being traitored out and being hunted by a group of soldiers, but it was because the party got split at the time. So they see him being chased, they don't know why, and then they have the bad guy, who at the time was the good guy, saying, "Oh, he's attacking people, get him," and all that. So Jacob has this idea. He runs out, dagger drawn, full speed, tackles the sorcerer, and just starts stabbing him Caesar style. And it's healing him. And he just whispers down and says, "Hurry up and play dead, stupid." I make them both roll a performance check. Being a bard rogue, Jacob rolls very, very high. Being a sorcerer, the sorcerer rolls surprisingly low, even though he has charisma. So
Wait a second. So that means we have one dude looking like Jack the Ripper, all authentic and everything, and the other guy's going, "Oh, ow, it hurts. Don't stab me. I'm sorry. Ow, I'm dying."
you ever seen the movie Over the Hedge with the possum?
Yeah.
That's what I liken it as. Just light overtaking me into the abyss.
So it's like a bad Mask parody.
Yeah.
But luckily Jacob's score was high enough that it kind of overwrit the poor acting, and they got away with it. And not after that, but then they end up kidnapping the bad guy and feeding him to an aboleth.
Oh, well, yeah. You're going to take care of a problem.
Oh yeah. So
That's
it was a good time, but
one of the many ways to do so.
yeah, I absolutely love player creativity, especially when it doesn't break my stuff and it just meshes. I love it. It gets me hyped.
I've actually had a player challenge a beholder to a staring contest.
How did that go?
You know what the sad part is?
He
The
won,
sad part
didn't he?
is the player won.
Okay.
How in
What? Check. Please tell me, like, Constitution save or something, maybe?
Perform.
Perform.
You know why? Because he had to play off the fact that his glass eye was real.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. I will remember this. I'm now going to... Somewhere in my world, there is now a beholder with a glass eye, just preparing for this situation. I'm going to flip it on him.
Yeah, but he's only got one, though, so he'd be like staring at the wall. "I challenge you to a staring contest. We're over here, dude.
Huh?
Over here. I know where I can see everything."
Runs into a wall.
Just imagine.
Ow.
Just imagine if Kavarn was doing
Oh
that.
yeah, it's just gonna be this really dopey beholder. I'm now making this. I'm gonna name him something kind of funny too, like Bobson. Bobson the
Name
Beholder.
like Toby. Yeah.
Just call him Old Glass
I
Eye.
had a player one time that was a werewolf, but she like rolled a 1 somewhere in her creation, so she lost her scent ability. So it was the only dog on the planet that couldn't smell worth a damn.
Oh no. Oh no.
So of course I had to put so many scent clues and everything just because she lost that. You know?
Oh yeah.
All the players got to the point where it'd be so much easier if we had a dog that could smell anything.
Oh man, I love that. Here's a good one that's kind of interesting. So the sorcerer, for I want to say since like a month or two into this campaign, has been looking for this particular ancient creature that only him, the party, and like a handful of other people know exists. It's like the unicorn of the D&D world, but not the actual unicorn because everybody knows that's real.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say that.
Right.
So he's been looking for this one race of creature for a long time, so he can get some research on and get published and whatnot for the Mages Guild. So I remember
sounds
this,
familiar.
and sure enough, I find a good moment in my prepping. I'm like, all right, time to give him his moment. He walks away from the situation. Like he thinks it's like, oh no, that's sketchy. I don't want any part of this. I'll walk away. But the other two people, the rogue and the monk, go into it, and he gets to witness them kill off this unicorn creature to him with just the mark of scorn over his face at nobody but himself because he turned it down.
Oh, God.
And like I'm looking at him, I'm like, dude, I tried. I really tried.
It's like, you should have fucking listened.
There was a flashing neon sign and everything.
It kind of was.
Come on.
It kind of was because the guy that they were like following to this encounter had already summoned one in the past. And it didn't just go.
What was the creature? Just curious.
It was a Aziran creature I talked about in a previous video.
Oh, yeah.
It was this like ancient pseudo-elven race sort of that had like ascended into a positive plane, but then got corrupted by a demigod-like demon. So, fun stuff. Yeah, real roller coaster.
Yeah, that's counterintuitive.
It was kind of like they were kind of like, you know, the Watchmen of the world. So why not start off by killing off the Watchmen?
I always did like a little happy face button.
Oh man. So let's get into some other fun stuff. What kind of genres or styles do you typically run with, Big?
I usually prefer like the fantasy, medieval. I'll occasionally dab in the steampunk. I'm a carpenter and a professional jerry rigger. So anything where it forces my characters to go, all right, if I take an ever-freezing stone and then put it up against a lava rock, I can make an airship engine. You know?
That's pretty cool.
You know, stuff like that. You know, I saw dabble into that kind of stuff or added to my medieval fantasy one. Mm-hmm. I've done some Star Wars games or Fallout games, more modern or sci-fi. I've done a little bit of that, but I mainly stick around fantasy.
I like that too. I'm a big medieval fantasy guy. I haven't dabbled with sci-fi yet, although Tanner is working on his own time trying to create a one-shot of a Mass Effect genre.
Oh, he's actually putting in the work?
He's trying to. It's hard to do at school and all, but I really want him to see him succeed on that because
I want to see it
fun.
Too. Like, I would love that.
Fun.
Well, see, I have like a double whammy for doing that stuff because I'm actually a fantasy author. I have a book up on Amazon.
Yes, he does, and that link will be in the description.
Yep, we got you, Big.
Hey, even better. And what I do is I go through history and explain the unexplainables with mythology.
Oh, I love that.
And like Cayman Island heads, how the pyramids were built, what's underneath the Sphinx, Hitler's perfect assassination, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know? Because I'm sorry, but if you're gonna have a bomb go off by your leg and your arm gets broke and everyone else is obliterated, something else is in play here.
Yeah,
you know?
I totally love those kind of books. That's why the original Assassin's Creeds really hooked me until they got all weird and alien-y, was because I love the tie-in to actual historical areas.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Desmond? God, that fucking...
Well, this isn't a video game review, Morbar.
Anyway...
He spent too long into the Matrix. He knows.
You just knocked
I
everything.
completely fucked the
Just
camera.
cut yourself.
There we go.
What are you doing?
But yeah, I've so
take
far
real.
been dabbling in medieval and fantasy areas. I like to say that I kind of go narrative in my approach, although I'm still probably considered fledgling, so I haven't really discovered my area yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to build up with what I can do. But
Oh, you're talking about for DM or GM style?
yeah, I figured
I
I'd
can tell I'm
also.
an old school D&D player because I still say DM instead of GM.
Oh no,
You
it's
know?
fun.
I prefer the term DM.
Yeah,
personally.
we use DM
It
as well.
sounds better.
Yeah, it does. Cause whenever you say GM, like you mean game master, and to me it's not a game.
Yeah.
It's a way of life.
The only issue I have with DM, and I've had this issue when people look at me and say, "Direct message? What?" I've had this happen.
Again, you can tell the differences in our playing
Yeah,
generation.
Oh yeah,
You know?
oh yeah.
there's a little bit of a generation gap there.
Right, yeah. Because if we say GM, it almost sounds like BM, and we all know what a bowel movement is. And then you get a whole different kind of confusion. You know?
Oh yeah, I'm the number 1 in the number 2 business.
Right, because I'm playing with like 30 to 50-year-olds, you know, where I saw a couple videos ago, there was like someone that is younger than my daughter, you know, as one of your players. And so I'm just like, yeah, this is generation gap here.
Oh yeah.
Back in my day, we used to have to go uphill both ways to play D&D.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's got to be kind of like it's kind of put you at ease though that the game is still staying so strong, if not growing stronger, right?
It does, yeah. No, it's very heartening. It's very, it makes me feel.
Sorry about that.
Somebody's phone went off.
Sorry, that's the wild search.
Yeah.
I need to
Learn.
do that. Anyway,
So, yeah.
I've been-
I'll have to edit that one out.
But as you were saying,
But you know, it's very nice to know that that's still one thing. Because the one thing I keep telling everybody, because like I've had people go, "I play fantasy football. Why should I bother D&D?" For one, fantasy football is the D for jocks. Hate to break it to you, but two, when the zombie apocalypse hits or some kind of we just fucked the human race over hits, and we have no electricity, we have no internet. I got a bunch of folders of this really cool game you want to play, and we don't need electricity for it. You know?
that's fair. That's fair.
And plus, D&D lit by candles is just the best experience. The
Oh,
best.
that's the one where when the spider comes around the corner to kill the party, everyone jumps a little. You know?
Oh,
yeah.
Bullshit.
Oh yeah,
You know?
For Halloween, I went as a plague doctor, and I had this like cultish robe as a part of it. So now I'm just waiting to introduce like a new guest player, and I'm gonna have like the hood up and just welcome.
Anyway.
Have like some incense burning in the corner.
Just have the other dude in the in the kitchen somewhere.
Start uttering in tongues.
Hey Bob, I think you need to get rid of that sandwich in your fridge. It's making some weird noises now.
Oh, the goat one? It's fine. It's fresh. We sacrificed it the other day.
Anyway.
Oh man.
Never talk about sacrifice in the church, but that's a whole other story.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh
goodness.
gosh. Morvar, you wanted to say anything else? What we got?
Oh, you talked about your style.
Yeah.
I know you're pretty new to DMing too, more. You want to share what style that you've started to play with, and then I'll share mine.
Well, I just kind of like to copy off a Critical Role, like as most people like that play D&D around us often do.
Well, I feel like that's kind of a good thing though, because they have such a high quality of acting
Yeah.
as their background that people who imitate it will naturally have a certain goal of mind of roleplay.
Yeah.
And that could backfire, yeah, but it also kind of pushes people to really try and strive for that. And I've actually feel like I kind of could work. Yeah, sorry.
Well, no, that's fine. I mean, I was going to agree with you that it can't be a good thing or a bad thing. The one good thing is now we have the internet. Because when I first started playing, we didn't have internet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had to just go find people, and hey, do you like D&D? Oh, you
Yeah.
know,
The hunter-gatherer
well, that's
style.
right. And now with the internet, everyone could go and look at games and go, oh, I like that style, but I don't like the way he does that. But I like that the way this guy does that, or this girl does that.
Yeah.
And you could combine them all and get find your own style with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
D&D
completely
has
agree.
only benefited from like the from the advancement of technology and the spread of information.
In fact, I would actually say that D&D has taken a massive gain ever since we're allowed to look through it.
Yeah.
That was like what D&D needed to start with, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because that just tremendously leaps and bounds it.
Because it's like it's like D&D's going through like another renaissance, you know? Like, everybody's playing it now.
I like that.
Yeah, and now the fact that you can play with people across the planet at once,
Yeah.
That's nice. Because I had a game, I'm in Iowa, I had 2 people in Texas, I had a dude up in Alaska, you know.
Yeah, and it also helps that, it's like you don't have to go, all right, let's gather the 3 DM friends to discuss this rule. Should we? No, you can now just check forums and finally figure out certain things that you never knew. And you can get various opinions. I always love going between like Chris Perkins, Matt Colville, and Matt Mercer, and their styles and just comparing and seeing what I like to pick in the middle from.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one good thing. Like, my style is totally, like, most GMs would consider me a rogue DM. Because I don't, I'm the one DM that goes, wait, how does that rule work again? Not only do I not usually know how the general rule works, it's because I made it up. I've never used a pre-built campaign. I've never used the experience system. I've never used anything that was pre-made. If there's a world that my players are going through, I created it. I sat there for an hour and created the entire world, the entire plot, made sure all the races were different. I rebalanced stuff. I would say all my games and my entire DM style is 90% homebrew and stuff that I made up by myself. Because, like I said a minute ago, I'm a writer. So, for one, I already have that skill set of doing it, and 2, it's good practice for me as a writer to be able to just pop off a new universe every 6 months, and on top of that, I do end up running into some problems, though, because I remember, about 3 or 4 months ago, we were playing a game, and I was running it, and our wizard of the group is sitting there screaming in this dude's basement, "That's not how a gelatinous skill works, man," And it's like, that's how it works here.
All right.
Because one thing that, yes, you have to have give and take with your players and stuff, but eventually it comes down to, you might be pissed at me right now, but you forget I'm God. You're
the god of the gods in there.
Right, exactly. If I want to make a certain thing run a certain way on my game for this session, that's the way it's going to work. Mm-hmm. If you want to come up to me afterwards and go, hey, man, the goo don't work that way. Yeah, I know that. I just did it this way for story-wise or whatever, and then I'll explain it to you. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the stuff like monsters, the only thing I really look at the monster manual for is the weird special attacks.
Yeah.
Everything else I make up on the fly.
Yeah. Now I think about it, I kind of technically do that too, because I end up just throwing out the stuff and balance it better because I have a larger than average party, so I have to typically scale stuff around.
Yeah, you have...
So now I think about it, I kind of do something similar that I just realized.
Huh. You have 8 players in your group?
Oh, no, that was at the beginning, and God, never again, at least not right now. At the moment I have 6 with a guest character like every other month. So,
see, that's not too bad. I'd say if you want a decent game, I would say the exact minimum is 3, and the most that you could do reasonably is 6. Mm-hmm. Anything more than that gets a little out of hand. Anything less than 3, you don't get.
Yeah. I believe 5th edition CR is rated for a party of 4, so that's what I've been eyeballing as average. So I've been scaling things up for a while.
Okay, but as one DM to another,
of course.
How many times have your characters got your big bad down to 1 HP and you're going, he magically now has 50 more HP because I want this to last a little bit longer.
More than I'd like to say because they're watching.
right, exactly. Or you've had it where, dude, I gotta go to the bathroom. The big bad totally died. He got an arrow through his head. Mm-hmm. I gotta take a shit. Can we get this over with?
Fun disclaimer for my players. I do both sides. Please don't crucify me. I help and hurt. Thank you. I'm about to get an angry text message when this hits YouTube.
Yeah, when this goes live.
Thing, again, and if they ever yell, if you get that text or if they yell at you, just answer back with what I said a minute ago. Did you forget that I'm God?
Nah, they give me hell and all that, but they know at the end of the day I never purposely try and screw them over. So there's a healthy amount of trust in our game.
Yeah, you're not that kind of a DM.
Right, and that's another thing that's a big part of my style. I will never, ever, ever go out of my way or purposely kill off the party. I would rather have the party be there as long. If you got to drag that gnome's body back to town for 10 sessions, so be it. I will purposely, like, I've never had a character, or I never had a player re-roll a character because I refuse. You know, if that means you got to shove down a sewer man cover and there's a goblin with a, half-assed defibrillator down there with a 50% chance of blowing the goblin up, whatever you got to do. Wow reference.
Crossing streams.
Right, yeah.
Cross the streets.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's even a YouTube channel called Rocks Fall and Everyone Dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had players die, but it's never because I've tried snuffing them out. It's always by shit luck. Usually, in fact, like the biggest one.
Or pure player stupidity.
Oh yeah. Well, no, this one was sheer luck. I was actually when I bring Tanner in, I was actually going to talk to him about this particular subject. He got hit by sirens and he walked off a cliff. Like they straight up charmed him, and he failed like 5 checks in a row.
Oh, you gave him plenty of chances to get
5
out.
Is a lot. I can't do much after 5.
God damn it, Tanner.
So he fell off the cliff, and it was like instant death.
If we ever make T-shirts, like we need to have one that just says "God damn it, Tanner," because that's every time that he's mentioned in these videos.
You say it, not me.
I
say "God damn it, Jacob," not "God damn it, Tanner."
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're basically the same person except one's taller.
No,
and less creepy.
They're very different in game, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's the one good thing about me being the GM most of the time. It's because usually I'm the dude they're going, damn it, big.
Yeah, I relate to that, too. I get a sadist streak every now and then, and I like to make the players, like, squeal a little. And, like, just recently.
Gotta make them squirm a little bit.
A hag. They were dealing with a hag, and they ended up playing a pretty jacked-up riddle game. And the druid lost the game and got memories sucked out of her mind of an old best friend. Well, of which the hag then kidnapped because they knew all about them. And also kidnapped a best friend of another party member, and now they're having to choose which one do they save.
Oh, wow, you went full Tommy Lee Jones Batman movie.
Yeah, I'm very curious, because that's where we are now. I'm very curious how they're going to handle it, if they can find that way to grab both. So
you get the left half of that one, I'll get the right half of this one.
Oh yeah. I am completely neutral in this. I want to just see what happens. I don't have any stakes on which one survives.
How do you want to do this?
Yeah.
I'm very hyped for that.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of like what I do with the general plot of my campaigns. Is I'll have an end game. But how they get there is all up to the players. Because how many times have you came up with where you plan, you've had maps, you got everything of this direction, and then one of your party goes, "Hey, I'm going to go check out that house over there."
There's another way. I thought that's the only way that happens. I typically make like 3 general like plans of attack for each session. Like, okay, if they go here, I know what's going to happen. If they go here, what's going to happen. But what I'm really doing is setting up a web for the middle, because I know that's where they're going to hit, is somewhere in between the paths.
Right, yeah.
That's what I typically
And that's why a lot of the games are kind of more or less winged.
Oh, yeah, totally. I totally feel that. I think my players might have a little bit of a panic attack if they realized how much of my list of papers are ad-libbed.
Which that kind of plays into like how you DM, Big, is that you're kind of like, for lack of a better term, you're like a bullshit artist and like a master of improv.
Well, we are.
Hey, comparing me to Mel Brooks is totally fine.
I mean, in a way, every DM worth his salt's got to have a little bit of a BS. Yeah. Like, I've seen people that, dude, they have like a bachelor's of arts in BS, a BA in BS. And it totally helps. And it's that on-the-spot improv that really is fun with a DM. This little like chess match of, okay, cool, they went there. How am I going to handle this? And this whole inner monologue's happening just up here. And what the players see is, okay, well, this happens.
Right, yeah. And all that, like, 10 minutes of work, it pops out in a heartbeat.
It's so cool to think back on those moments like, holy crap, I pulled that off.
Alright, Big. I have one more question before, like, we call it quits on this video here. So, You talked like about like how it was like whenever you first start, like how you got into it. What was D&D like back when you first started getting into it? Like what was the community like?
Community. Ooh, that's a good one.
There wasn't much of a community, in all honesty. Like it was a lot of, oh, you play that too? Awesome! Like you had no idea. Like here, everyone's got a YouTube channel or an Instagram or whatever, and they'll put like D&D right on the top of it.
Yeah.
Hey, open for players. Back then it was you had to like know this dude for 10 years and then maybe ask him if he plays D&D. Or you had to like walk by the garage while it was open while they were all playing in their mom's garage.
Yeah,
or something like that. Right, yeah.
Staring at the window.
Yeah. And there wasn't really much of a community. I mean, the people that you found, oh man, it was like an instant family where, you'd always have that weird cousin you always try to kick out. But, for the most part, we all got real close, pretty quick of, what you got? I got this map. I made this map. And, there was no Pinterest or anything to be able to share stuff back and forth.
So it was a very guerrilla way of playing back then.
Right, and it was very secluded pockets. Very secluded pockets. And you got really good in with your group, but when that group found another group, not only did your knowledge base totally expand, but like all of your goodies and resources and everything. But the only bad thing is back then all we had was the core books. You had the handful of GMs that would ad lib and make stuff up and homebrew, but for the most part all we had was the core books. And like Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2.0, they didn't really have a whole lot of the Book of Exalted Ones or the Complete Rogue. We didn't have 14 million other books to go off of, or magazines or anything else. Excuse me. So it was either what we created or what we could find. So a lot of GMs back then were very much rule lawyery, because that's all they knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it's understandable though because they have to be rule lawyery, or else they'd forget their own rules. Like it's one of those things where if you didn't use it, you'd lose it eventually. So I can understand that. I feel.
Right.
Just curious, but like, what was it like? What was it like getting the books back then? Like, was it kind of like how it is now? Like where like you don't really need the books, like if you really don't want them, or was there a bigger priority on like no, we have to sink in like 50 or so. I don't even know how much they cost back then, but
it was pretty close to the same, but you'd pay $20 for this book, and back then $20 was like $50 now.
Yeah.
And
inflation.
But what we did a lot of is, since we didn't have PDFs or emails or anything like that, is we'd have the one rich person of the group buy all the books, and then we'd go spend 50 million nickels at the library and just photocopy the living crap out of it. So we'd all have these 3-ring binders of what the books were supposed to be, or we'd have, we'd literally like, I'm going to borrow your book this weekend and write everything that I need out of it, or even type it up on a typewriter. I've seen typewriter, player core books of people that they've made it because they didn't have,
that's legit.
We just barely started to have computers, on a regular basis.
Be thankful for what you got nowadays, guys.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like when that whole computer program that I made for it, I mean, that was cutting edge. And that was back before we realized that electronic number generators weren't random at all. Like you were saying earlier before we started this interview that, was it you? No, somebody else was telling me that a lot of people refuse to use Roll20.net because the dice generator is not random at all. And I'm sitting there laughing because, I hate to break it to you, but no random number generator or dice roller that's digital is random.
No, it's all a formulated code.
Right, that's how the algorithm works. If you want an actual random number, a dice is the best option every time. And it was so, you'd have like, because when I say dungeon creator, because that program made a dungeon and was a dice roller. When it created a dungeon, it was dashes and like if you look at your keyboard, all the little lines and stuff. That's what it created it at.
Wow.
It wasn't fancy graphics or anything. I mean, it was pure old school graph paper
Yeah.
and pencil.
It was notepad art. It was back in the day when people would make pixelated art with the dashes and symbols.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
And then, right, like, I would say a couple of years after I started playing, that's when we got, like, MS Paint and stuff like that. We start making crazy maps out of MS Paint because one pixel at a time is a grid mark.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
That's awesome, man.
Just thinking about like how painstaking that must have been.
Well, there was a passion for it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You had to want it
Oh, yeah.
to do it back then.
Well, even still, there's that passion still today. I mean, have you seen like what people do with maps and foam nowadays?
Oh yeah. I actually watch a few channels that do that.
Yeah, like I've seen things where I saw this one thing. I want to say it was on Imgur or Pinterest, but it was like a final battle, and they took a bunch of wire and foam and made a bunch of floating islands that the players had to hop around with that could be rotated at the base. Whoa. They were moving.
Yeah, we used to make that stuff all the time because we didn't have tiles.
Yeah.
Like the tiles that you could buy for $10 for 1,000,000 of them, we didn't have any of that. Mm-hmm. You know, we had the ones that we cut out of a cardboard pizza box that put the grid on it, or, you know, the little, we'd make houses out of paper or cardboard or even wood. We had, like I used to make, what I used to do is I'd take those, like, you know, those carving woods you get at Hobby Lobby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The real thin strips.
Mm-hmm.
As I'd do that, and I would gouge the grid into it with, like, a chisel, and then I'd paint them. And so, I mean, so we made our own tiles.
Man,
you know, and things
awesome.
like that. We did that stuff all the time. Like, it's funny, too, because all these young people are like, oh, I'm the first one to think. No, dude, we've been doing that for years since this thing started. It's like how the teenagers think now that they invented text language. I hate to break it to you, but we invented that when AOL Messenger came out, you know, 15 years ago. You know,
I'm not going to argue that one, but I can definitely understand the feeling of accomplishment back then and today when they make those things. Because just seeing that from my eyes, it's just like, whoa, I really want to do that, but I really got to put the time in, and it gets me excited.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
that nerdgasm, as we call it. That's the greatness of D&D, because even the video games, like the difference between video games back then and now, you have the 120-hour Chrono Trigger versus I played 5 hours on Call of Duty. No, that's not a video game. The 120 hours with the 24 different, you know, game ends, yeah, that's a video game. And even then, you cannot do what you can do on one game session of D&D, because the whole point of D&D or any tabletop game is the fact that it's coming out of here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not relying on what the developer thought. You're doing what your own brain. You know, and that's the greatness of D&D. That's why people are still playing it.
Oh yeah, that's why it's growing. Is people are realizing, wow, we can cut out all the limitations.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely agree.
Where it's truly only limited by your own imagination.
Yep.
Right, and we've all had that one player that goes. All right, what do you do? I don't know.
Well, it's jarring. It's kind of like the first time you ride a bike without training wheels. It's jarring not to have those limiters.
Yeah.
Because you always think it's like you can fall back on them, but there is no life vest for that. It's sink or swim, and a lot of times for especially like my players when they're new, a lot of times they had that. What can I do? You can do anything. What does anything mean?
Yeah, see, I don't get that anymore because I've been playing it for so long that, like, if you're like, oh, there's a goblin around the corner, what do you do? All right, do I go over there and shoot him from that side, or do I come over here and I could trip him, I could throw a pillow in his head, what am I going to do?
Bingo.
You know, and I'm sitting here with the 18 different million options, but, like, only because I've been doing it for 20 some odd years, that, like, I don't always see the problem of being new anymore is...
Well, it's interesting. I've discussed it with my players, and I feel like, especially like gamer background players who just come from video games straight into D&D, have a harder time getting away from those limiters because they're used to a game's limitations. They're used to, they see that goblin, okay, I can sneak attack it, or I can assault it. And their options are combined into these subgroups of attack, stealth, etc. And it's I feel like once you break that, they really start seeing how fun it is, but it does take time to break it.
Yeah, no, that's a good analogy. I never thought of that. You know, because I mean, even back then we didn't really have a whole lot of computer games. It was Pong, which had so much story to it, and so yeah, no, I didn't even think of that. I mean, one thing that I would suggest for an old DM playing with new players is have more patience than you'll ever think you need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't get as frustrated as I do about it.
I'm blessed that I play with a lot of my friends, so if anytime there's frustration, it's immediately walked out of the door with, "You had fun, bastard?" "Yeah," and we shake hands and hug.
Yeah.
Well,
And see, that's the other thing about doing this for 20 years is I've seen friendships end because you killed my character.
Or, I've seen it too in a very short span of time. I still have grudges of people like, "Oh, remember that time you punched me in the face in the game? I just keyed your car." Big, it's been a great time talking, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show with us. And, yeah.
Any last remarks you want to say to the camera?
Thank you guys for letting me comment on this. I'm hoping to do some more stuff with the channel D&D wise, so I don't have to create my own third or fourth, fifth channel or whatever to start doing D&D stuff. And it was great to be here. It's nice to have more D&D people to talk to.
Oh, I can totally feel it. Like you've given me so many ideas that I just can't wait to go home and just make stuff that'll make my players curse you out. Well, guys, it's been fun. If you like this, make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you next time. Morvar, take us home.
See you guys later.